and tight, can you see it? Streaming the truth live from where they create. Sylvia speaks, no filter, no buffer. Courtroom drama couldn't get any tougher.
When the gavel's first bang, to the witness stands tears. Sylvia's lens captures all your hopes and fears. Uploading justice one trial at a time. Tuning every moment, edges sublime.
Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Faces tell stories, the courtroom can't hide. Sylvia's insights cut through the divide. From jury talks to the lawyer's secret. In Sylvia's world, you know you'll need it. Behind the scenes where whispers are loud, her lens reveals the truth in the crowd. Courtroom secrets laid bare to see. Stay curious with Sylvia Spree. Every objection, every sharp retort, Sylvia's there to give you the report. Exclusive footage no one else can snag. From catchy headlines straight to the tag. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show.
Faces tell.
Hey everybody, it's me, Sylvia. Look, we're starting a new case before Mr. Steele's case starts. So we're starting a new case, and it's a cold case that happened back in 1988. 1988, a 5-year-old was unalived. And well, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to play the press conference for you guys so you can hear exactly what happened. Okay? All right. Hold on.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out for this press conference. This is a momentous day in Ware County for a case that has long gone unsolved. And I'd like to thank for your coverage and your attention to this matter. First thing I'd like to do is introduce the people that are standing up here with me. Of course, behind me I have Ware County Sheriff Carl James. Over here I have the Daugherty County District Attorney Greg Edwards, the Waycross Judicial Circuit District Attorney Marilyn Bennett, and GBI Inspector Ryan Carmichael. As you know, today's press conference is about the what's been known as the Ware Baby Jane Doe. On December 21st of 1988, the Ware County Sheriff's Office requested the GBI Region 4 office after finding remains of a child off Duncan Bridge Road in Millwood, Georgia, at an illegal dump site. You can see from this crime scene photo here, this is the location of where she was found. She was inside of an old TV cabinet, wrapped up in a blanket, inside of a duffel bag, inside of a trunk that had been encased in concrete. You can see also from the picture that this was a dump site. There's an old desk, there's other trash that's just been thrown out where they threw out this child. We also knew from that scene that there was a possible Albany connection due to an Albany Herald newspaper that was found nearby. Now, the initial investigators and agents that responded to this scene, they made multiple different attempts to try to identify her. They looked at local missing children reports, of which there were none that matched. They checked with local social service agencies that had no report of any child that could match that description. They looked at local, state, and national law enforcement message boards to provide information to try to get a response on a possible missing child that fit this description. They also utilized local, state, and national media releases to try to spread the story in an attempt to get a tip of who this missing child may be. They made comparisons to known missing children throughout the United States. These were in areas like Michigan, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and many other states. This investigation continued on for years. There were multiple agents, multiple Ware County Sheriff's Office investigators that put their hearts and soul into this case. It wasn't until 2019 that a Region 4 agent began looking at DNA genome sequencing as a possibility for helping us identify this baby Jane Doe. In 2022, using information that had been obtained from genealogy research based on DNA results, we were able to confirm a family connection in Albany, Georgia. At that point, we began comparing DNA from family members in that family tree to the extract of DNA from the baby Jane Doe. We moved on to December of 2022, on the anniversary date of when baby Jane Doe was found. We did a news release through the media, and a tipster called forward. She had heard the story of baby Jane Doe, and she believed she may know who this little girl may be. She knew that there had been a child that had gone missing, and that her mother said that the child had gone to live with her father. This person never really believed that story and found that it may not, just didn't believe it was true. We investigated this lead. In collaboration with the Ware County Sheriff's Office, we began tracking down that specific family tree, and that investigation led us to today. In June of 2023, we were able to confirm that the child was 5 years old, Kenyatta Odom. Kenyatta was affectionately known as Kiki. Now, during this investigation, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children had conducted a forensic rendering of what they believed baby Jane Doe looked like. And here we have a comparison of that rendition to the picture of Kenyatta. The investigation didn't stop there. Since this summer, we have continued to conduct interviews and other investigative acts to try to determine what caused the death of Kenyatta Odom. Based on that investigation, on November 1st, we were able to secure a true bill on a grand jury indictment for Kenyatta's mother, Evelyn Odom, also known as Zemeka Luciano, and Evelyn's live-in boyfriend at the time, Ulister Sanders Sr. Both Evelyn and Ulister were charged with 5 counts, 1 of felony murder, 1 of cruelty to children in the first degree, 1 of aggravated battery family violence, 1 count of concealing the death of another person, and 1 count of conspiracy to conceal the death of another person. Both Evelyn and Ulister were arrested without incident on Thursday, November 9th, 2023. Finally, after almost 35 years, not only were we able to identify her remains of who baby Jane Doe was, but we were also able to make the arrest of those that we believe were responsible. This work was not done alone. While the GBI was requested to work the case, and the Ware County Sheriff's Office was always by our side, assisting in any way possible, we also had other partners. The Waycross DA's office consistently provided us advice and feedback on investigative processes so that we could be sure that we had the strongest case possible. When it was determined that Kenyatta's death occurred in Dougherty County in the Albany area, we began to confer with the Dougherty County DA's office, who continued to provide excellent advice and pushed us to continue on with investigative leads to try to secure the case. The GBI Department of Forensic Science was always there to help us understand the ever-emerging DNA technology that was coming forward, how we could use it in this case. The GBI Medical Examiner's Office proved vital as we ended the days of the investigation prior to the arrest in helping us ensure that we had what we believed were the right people. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, also known as NCMEC, they have been involved with this from the beginning. In 2009, they met with us and helped us post investigative findings in an attempt to find new information. They also did this work of the rendering of what they believed baby Jane Doe looked like. The National Missing and Unidentified Person System, also known as NamUs, was another partner that helped us to get the word out about Kenyatta. The University of North Texas was instrumental in helping us extract DNA and make comparisons while we were conducting the investigation. Gene by Gene, Othram, Innovative Forensic Investigations are also three organizations that were essential in determining the match between Kenyatta and baby Jane Doe. I'd also like to thank an anonymous donor that provided a $5,000 reward in December of 2022 that helped us get information that we needed to secure this case. I'd also like to thank the Cook County Sheriff's Office and the Lenox Police Department. They were vital in helping us locate Evelyn at the time of her arrest. Right now, I'd like to turn the mic over to Sheriff Carl James.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. I'm Ware County Sheriff Carl James. First, I would like to say thank you to the person that came forward with the tip, the information that led to the solving of this case, and to the Ware County citizen that came forward with the $5,000 reward. This case has always been a special interest to me because I was one of the responding detectives back on December the 21st, 1988. A little after 12 p.m. that day, I, along with Detective Peggy Gwynn, received a radio call to respond to Duncan Bridge Road in the Millwood community about a death investigation. Upon my arrival, I was really not prepared for what we were about to find. That is, the body of a little girl who we now know as Kenyatta Odom had been discovered in a wooded area a short distance from the roadway. From that time forward, hundreds of leads and tips have been investigated and followed up by the Sheriff's Office and the GBI. It is because of the diligence of the many criminal investigators, forensic specialists, prosecutors, and others over the years that we're able to be here today with this case having come to a successful conclusion. So again, I would like to say thank you to everyone that had a helping hand in solving this case. This is a great example of what can happen when agencies collaborate and work together. And in conclusion, I would like to remind everyone that where unsolved cold cases are concerned, investigators are always working on these cases. Even though the public may not see any progress for months or even years, they are still being investigated and worked on. Thank you. So at this time, I would like to introduce Greg Edwards, the Doherty District Attorney.
Good morning, or good afternoon. I'd rather just say a few other things in relation to the cooperation of these agencies that you've been introduced to. Well, to begin with, this case was a traumatic event for this community, Ware County. But I have viewed all of our efforts as a whole community for the state of Georgia. Working with District Attorney Bennett, we began to review the case, and looking at all the information being gathered, it became clear that Doherty County was the area where this matter should be brought to trial. To begin with, every community must do everything it can to protect its children, its disabled, and its senior citizens. And how we do this reflects directly on the character of our communities. And it reflects on the character of our state, that our agencies have worked diligently to bring this matter to the point where we can seek final justice for Kenyatta. And that's what we intend to do. We intend to bring this matter forward. The indictment has been returned by the grand jury of Doherty County, and the matter will proceed to trial. As the prosecuting officer in this matter, I cannot comment as much as I would like to regarding the evidence, but the thing is that we believe that there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that will lead to justice being found for Kenyatta. And again, I want to thank the relentless efforts of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the efforts of the Ware County Sheriff's Department, The efforts of the district attorney for this judicial circuit, D.A. Bennett. All of these efforts have coalesced into this point where we can finally find justice for Kenyatta. Agent Secrets.
I'd like to reiterate what you just heard Sheriff James and DA Edwards say. This cold case is a collaborative effort. We have worked, as I've mentioned earlier, multiple organizations, but specifically within law enforcement, the amount of collaborative effort between the GBI and the Ware County Sheriff's Office is what brought us to this conclusion. We have worked with them every day, working on finding the answers here. But I think the bigger picture is not just even on this case, but also on all cold cases. The work that is done on cold cases is typically behind the scenes. There can be a thought that maybe these cases are forgotten about, that maybe they've just been pushed to the back burner, but that is absolutely not the case. Every quarter, the GBI reviews their cases that each agent carries, both current and cold cases. Every quarter, we review what investigative acts need to be done for the next quarter. These cases are not forgotten. And just because you don't see us out there actively working out in the public does not mean that that work is not being done. That work is being done every day by a dedicated group of agents along with the local investigators that they work with. But not only are they also working on cold cases, they continue to work their current cases. Our success rate in current cases is not as widely known, but every day we are securing arrests, and working with DA's offices, we are securing prosecutions of these arrests. I can tell you that on average, at our office at Region 4 in Douglas, for the last 3 years, we've worked 16 death investigations a year. We've worked 5 child molestations a year on average. We've worked 6 sexual assaults every year on average. We've worked 6 use of force cases every year on average. We are working upwards of 50, 60, and 70 violent criminal cases every year, all while working on cold cases, trying to get these to a conclusion. And we do that over a large geographic area. In our office, it's 11 counties. That is a significant amount of work that is being done every day. Right now, what I'd like to do is recognize the agents and the investigators that have put their heart and soul into this case. I'd like the agents from Region 4 to come up front, as well as Major Neil Scarrett and Investigator Misty Thrift. These are the groups that are out there every day working these cases, making sure that they come to a successful conclusion. They spend their nights away from home. They spend their weekends away from home. They spend their holidays away from home. They are called out at 11, 12, 1, 2 a.m. when people don't realize what's really going on. They'll work 24, 48, 72 hours away from home before they ever come home again to get some rest. They do this consistently. They do this with extreme dedication, and it is something that is never seen and that we need to speak more about. The time they spend away from home, making sure that these cases are successfully prosecuted is important. It's important to them, it's important to our communities, it's important to our state, and it's important to our nation. These are the ones that are doing the real job out here. Of particular notice, I'd like Special Agent Taylor Hunley to come up. Agent Hunley joined us in 2019. She was a Waycross native. She grew up hearing about this case and was always specifically interested in it. When she got to our office, she requested to be able to have this case assigned to her as a cold case. I have never seen anyone work so hard to be sure to try to find an answer for a cold case as what I've seen Agent Hunley. Her work is commendable, and most of the time it's unseen. But it's been her dedication, along with the support of these other agents and these other investigators, that got us to where we are today, and that will continue us forward through a successful prosecution. Thank you, Taylor. Now, does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Jeffrey's first question is, any idea on motive of why she was killed?
I think at this time, any direct comments about the investigation, I need to steer clear of for right now and let that come out in the prosecution.
Agency, Press Ashley Harding, News for Jax. Do we know where Kenyatta
We are actively trying to locate her father. The identity of her father has been a little bit of a secret over the years, but we are continuing to use our investigative tools to try to identify him.
The two individuals who were arrested, do they have any other children?
It's not Steele's case. It's Gardner's case. Lamar Gardner. That's whose case it is, not Steele's.
They do.
Okay, hi, Ashanti Isaac, WALB. Where is the location of the mother right now? Is she in Doherty County?
My understanding is she was booked in the Doherty County Jail last week, although I've had several questions, so I'm not sure if there's been a mix-up. She was arrested in Cook County. It was the Cook County Sheriff's Office and the Lenox Police Department that assisted us with that arrest once we located her. But it was my understanding she was going to be transported to Doherty County.
And does the statute of limitations apply to this case? And if so, can you elaborate why or not?
There is no statute of limitations on murder. As to the other statutes, I would defer to the district attorney's office to discuss the technicalities there.
Nick Gibson here from Action News Jax. My first question is, kind of why did it take so long for you guys to get here now today? If you can maybe elaborate on that.
Very good question. Primarily the forensic technology has changed. It has changed the investigative landscape. In 1988, I don't even know that DNA was on any investigator's mind. The genealogy work that is being done was nowhere near the capacity that it is today. Note that at the time, multiple media releases were made. I would say within in the first 12 months or 6 months of baby Jane Doe being found, and a response was just never gotten. Every lead that was followed ended up not matching our remains. As to why that takes so long, you have to look at the investigative process and the forensics that have developed. As I said, in 2019 was when we started looking at DNA genome sequencing. And then once you get into that, and if you want to get the technicals, you extract the DNA, and then you have to start trying to make matches, and you can track that through some genealogy research, but sometimes that only gets you so close. And in this case, it got us close enough to realize there wasn't all the connection, but it actually wasn't close enough to get us directly to the mom or the dad. It was a tipster that finally came forward that provided us the final break that we needed. So sometimes it's just a matter of the information. It's not magic to work an investigation. We need the cooperation of witnesses and members of the public and the media to help get this done, and it came together here. That the mother had provided a story to family members over the years, and it just took a long time for them to finally question that.
That tipster, were they close to the family? Was that a family member? Do we know that by chance?
I'd rather not provide that at this time.
To clarify, Mr. Sanders, was he a live-in boyfriend or a stepfather?
He was a live-in boyfriend
And also, where was he taken?
in Doherty County. Yes, sir.
All right. I want to ask this. Did you say that the tipster called after a news story aired on December 21st, 2022?
That's correct. We received the tip in January of 2023.
Is that the story you and I did together?
It may have been. Yes, ma'am.
Could you say what the official cause of death was for the baby?
So the medical examiner at the time ruled the manner of death homicide with an undetermined cause of death. That will not change, although the medical examiner's office has been reviewing the records based on new information that we've obtained during the investigation.
The indictment that was released mentioned hot water and burns. Can you elaborate on that?
I'm not going to elaborate on anything in the indictment based off of just what I've said here today. All right. Thank you again. We do appreciate you coming to the press conference. More importantly, getting the word out that baby Jane Doe is no longer unnamed, is no longer unknown. The baby that was thrown out into a trash pile has been identified, and we're working to bring justice to her. Kenyatta Odom, that's the name we want out there. Kiki. Thank you.
Is it possible to get blood shots for these two individuals? How does that work, sir?
You'd have to go through the jail. We don't have the mug shots.
And I'm going to follow up, guys. I have a news release that I'm going to hand you, and then any follow-up questions, you can just email public affairs.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right. I got an email, and the email states, I hope this message finds you well. I'm reaching out as a fan of your engaging coverage of the YSL trial. Your ability to explain legal matters while centering humanity and fairness is powerful, and it is why I am writing to you today. There is a case unfolding in Albany, Georgia, that we believe deserve your voice and platform. The 1988 Baby Jane Doe cold case. After more than 35 years, a mother is now being tried for the death of her infant daughter, a crime she has long denied, and one that many in the community believe she is being wrongfully accused. The trial is set to begin August 11, 2025, and it has all the hallmarks of a case that need the kind and thoughtful exposure you provide. Cold case politics, questionable investigative practices, and a vulnerable defendant fighting for justice decades later. Your perspective could help shine a much needed light on a case that has largely flown under the media radar, but has serious implication for justice and accountability in the South. If you if you be open to learning more or even attending the trial in Albany, Georgia, we will be happy to share details, records, and connect you with those involved. Thank you for your work you do. We hope this story finds its way onto your radar. Warmly, and then I won't tell you the name. So this is a case that I was given a couple of days ago. And what I did is I went down the rabbit hole the last couple of days. That's why you guys have not been seeing me, because I've been in the rabbit hole trying to get a grasp of understanding what happened. So I pulled up the press conference, and then I pulled up different news articles, news reporting on this particular case. And then I call the attorneys that are involved. Okay. Call the attorneys that are involved, and some of the things they told me, this is not what you think, Sylvia. Do you remember when Steele and Adam got ready to do Jackie Johnson's case, and they said that, Sylvia, if you knew what was going on, you would see why we're taking this case. So this case is not what we think it is. Okay. You have a mother who had this child originally at age 16, and then by the age of 21, this child is gone. The mother's age 21. Okay. The child is gone. According to someone, the tipster, the mother claimed that the child was with the father. Right? We don't know all the details to this case, but remember, innocent until proven guilty. So there's a lot of makeup in this, and they're saying that this is more political because this is a cold case. And what's going to come? Some election for somebody in the position. So what they do, they find a cold case to help with their campaign. So I will be covering this case. I am filing my Rule 22, and I will continue to do the investigation on what is going on, what happened, and things like that. So this is why I do have some videos that I'm going to share with you guys. Yeah, exactly, CMT, exactly. So, and some of the stuff that I have learned, which I will not share yet, but some of the stuff that I learned, because when I first started listening to this, I was like, okay, they did the DNA thing. They did that 23, the 23 match DNA, the genealogy 23 thing. Right? And the child is related to a few people in that community. The child's related to a few people, but the closest DNA is to Evelyn Odom. So that's the closest DNA, and I mean the more tight knit DNA. This is 35 years ago. So I don't know the details. I'm talking about as far as what the detectives and stuff like that have. But one thing I wanted to tell you guys, the supposedly boyfriend at the time, he is charged as well with Miss Odom. But here's the deal. Just recently, the district attorney decided to give him a plea deal. And that plea deal is just misdemeanors charges. But get this, the judge is not buying it. The judge says, we're going to play it. So now the guy is supposedly putting all the blame on the mother, saying that the mother did not like her child and that she didn't want him to call the police. I mean, all of this. Now, if supposedly she told you all of this all of this before, why didn't you go to the police in the beginning? Why didn't you go to the police? Why is it now all of a sudden you want to say that it's her? But listen to this. The body was found wrapped around a brown blanket, stuffed in a suitcase, and then put inside of a cabinet, those old style TV with the cabinet, those floor model TV type of thing, and they poured cement in there. Does that sound like something a woman would do? Pour cement, and that made it heavy. Does that sound like something a woman would do? Come on, y'all. Put on your detective mindset. There's a private donor that gave a $5,000 reward. Then all of a sudden anything's possible. Look at the lady who put her children in a freezer. Yeah, but to carry it all the way into the woods, almost 90 something miles away, and carry it to the woods like that. A sick woman with the help of a man. I would say it had to be somebody with a help, right? But now, here's the problem I have with this whole case is the problem I have is if the person that gave the tip, why didn't the person tell it in the beginning? I'm really confused. They've been looking for this child more than 35 years ago. Why now? My question is, why now? Hey, Daryl. Why now? 35 years later. It's not like she had confession and she told us she did it, or he had a confession. The guy's coming to him and say, "Hey, I can't sleep anymore, and I did." Something's really. I can't put my hand on it, but something's not adding. It's not mathing. It's not mathing to me. I got a lot of questions. That's what I told the person. I said, I have a lot of questions. When I was talking to the attorney, I have a lot of questions. And so I asked the attorney, do you believe her? The attorney said, yes, they believe her. I still have questions, lots of questions. Lots of questions. What is the health condition of the person that is being put up a 5,000 now, and then maybe they need to clear themselves before leaving? Who knows? Linda, no. The person that gave up the $5,000 is not the person that gave the it's two different people. The $5,000 is one person. The person that gave the tipster is a different person. It's two different people. Two different people. You typing in Eden? Yeah, definitely, Linda. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions. A lot of questions. And the only evidence they have is the DNA. The DNA saying that this person has the same DNA as the 21 chrome, that thing. That's just to match the person to say, hey, they got family related to them. Not evidence of forensic evidence saying that this person's finger went places. You get what I'm saying? It's just DNA saying that this person related to this child related to this person. Yeah, 23andMe. Yeah, that's the one. And it does. She's just the closest person related. And they're claiming it might be the child, but they're not for sure it's the actual child. All right. I got something to play for you guys. Somebody did a whole story behind this, and because everyone wants, hold on, I'm gonna play this for y'all. Hold on, y'all.
It is one of Georgia's oldest cold cases, and after 35 years, the mystery has been solved, and baby Jane Doe has a name, Kenyatta Odom. While it reads like a mystery novel, it is real life, and it was solved through persistent detective work by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Ware County Sheriff's Office. Joining me live via Zoom from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Special Agent in Charge, Jason Sechrest. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Bruce. Thanks for having me.
Sure. This is the story that has the body of a small child that was found wrapped in a baby blanket, placed in a gym bag inside a cement-filled suitcase, which was then hidden in a TV console cabinet in Ware County in 1988, 35 years ago, and culminated in 2 arrests, and you finally being able to identify that 5-year-old baby. How did that big break come about?
Well, first, it started with just good investigative work from the very beginning. This case was worked very hard from the time that the GBI was called in collaboration with the Ware County Sheriff's Office. The work never stopped. But in 2019, we began to look at DNA genome sequencing and being able to try to match that with genealogy records. In 2022, that got us to some known family members in Albany, but didn't quite get us far enough. At that point, it was just solid investigative work by the agents and the investigators to track down. And then really the deal breaker was a tip. We got a tip from the public that narrowed us down to right where we needed to be. And then it was just investigative work, continuing to investigate, continuing to interview, continue to check records, just continuing to put the work in. This is a great case of the combination of forensic technology and then also good investigative work, solid work by the agents and the investigators. And it just brought us to the answer.
So let me back up a bit and explore the timeline a bit further. The body was found in 98. Evidence was found, as you said, tying her to Albany, Georgia. And you found she was killed, but the cause of death couldn't be determined at that time.
That's correct. They weren't able to determine the manner of death as homicide, but because of the condition of the child, they were not able to determine a cause of death. And that is something that is being reviewed by the medical examiner's office right now as we have gained more information through the investigation.
So then we fast forward to 2019. You mentioned genome sequencing was used to tie the remains to a family tree in Albany. But then you got a tip from the public in 2022, which just goes to tell us that there's always somebody out there that knows something. Did you wonder why somebody sat on that for so long?
You do wonder.
That's my question.
You just never know. I was talking to one of the former agents that was working this case 10 years ago. He and I had a phone call, and there was a lot of media releases through the years about this. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes there's just a moment in time in a person's life where it just strikes them hard enough that they realize they need to call somebody, which is why we never stop working these cases. We never stop trying to make media announcements, because we never know when that right person is going to come forward to give us the tip that we need.
The two people arrested, the child's mother, Evelyn Odom, also known as Zemeka Luciana, and her stepfather, Ulysses Sanders. They flew under the radar for 35 years. So I don't know if you can talk about this because it's still a fresh case. When agents swooped in and made the arrest, they had to have been shocked.
Well, there had been contact prior to the arrest where we had reached out to them. So I don't know how shocked they were, but I think when we initially contacted them, there was definitely some surprise that after all these years, they were being asked questions about Kenyatta.
Personal question. As a police agency, as somebody who's worked on this case, there has to be a satisfaction that a case that is 35 years old has been solved, and perhaps even more importantly, this little girl has a name.
Absolutely. When you go back and you read the case file and you look at the pictures, and to think that a parent actually tossed this child basically into an illegal trash site off the side of the road, it is heartbreaking to consider what that child lived through. That wasn't just a one moment in time. People don't get to that point generally just in one moment. To think of the life that child had to live through even up to that point, and then to just be thrown away. The satisfaction of the agents and the investigators and myself that have worked on this case, and all the agents and investigators that have worked on it through the years, I can't express it in words. We have received phone calls and messages from other people that have worked on this case through the years, and everybody is just thrilled that this was able to come to a conclusion, not only in identifying her, which is difficult enough, but also in getting enough evidence to secure an arrest.
And I've got to ask you, I said this is one of the oldest cases, cold cases in Georgia. If I'm not mistaken, there's another that's something like 65 years old. Does it make you wonder, hey, maybe, just maybe, we'll get to the bottom of that one?
There are a lot of cold cases that are being worked just as hard as this, and that we are looking at forensic evidence that can be reevaluated with new technologies. I believe that we are going to continue to see these cold cases solved based on that new technology. The GBI has even started up a new cold case unit that is purely dedicated to evaluating these cold cases and being able to look at evidence that can be tested in a way that wasn't available at the time that the crimes were committed. I think we're going to continue to see more of these cases solved.
And to the public, if something jogs your memory, if you saw something, even if it was many, many years ago, hey, get in touch with you, right?
Absolutely. It's incredibly important that working an investigation and bringing it to a conclusion is not magic. It does take, yes, knowledge and dedication of the agents and investigators that work it, but sometimes we need a tip. We need that right piece of information that pushes us over the finish line. So if you think you have that information, please call the tip line. On any case, we do continually get tips, and we do continually investigate those. It's part of our ongoing process in working these cold cases.
Jason Sechrist, thanks for your time. Have a great day. I appreciate you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. That is that part of it. Hold on a second. I'm trying to All right. What did Linda say? Linda said yes, tips and leads. And it says over 35 years, multiple changes in staff. Linda, tons of DA changes in 35 years. No, he's been the DA for the last 30 years. He's been the DA for the last 30 years. He's been the DA. So only 5 years of this, he hasn't been the DA. He's been that DA for 30 years. So you know. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, CMT. Yes. 30 years he's been the DA. We got a lot of questions. Lots of questions. See, I tell you, I've been digging and trying to get all the information. Yeah, as long as they keep voting them in, they can be a DA for the rest of their lives. They can be a DA for the rest of their lives. They don't have to leave. As long as the people keep voting them in every 4 years, they could stay in there forever and ever and ever. Exactly. This man is the prime example for the poor justice system in Georgia. You think they put efforts into it? No, it has to fall in their laps. Exactly. Very interested. That shouldn't be allowed. That's why they can do all kinds of stuff. It's very interesting, Sylvia. Like you said, there's lots of questions. Let me show you these two individuals. Let me show you the two individuals. All right. Somebody had did a thing on this. Hold on. And Urban Crime did this. Urban Crime. I do not own the rights. Urban Crime. This is the fair accuse. All right, let's go ahead and show this. They did a little clipping on it, and I'm gonna go past it a little bit. Hold on. They do a little story and music and all that stuff.
Breakthrough came when a tip led to the identification of the child as 5-year-old Kenyatta Odom. As investigators pieced together the truth, they uncovered a tragic story of abuse, leading to the arrest of Kenyatta's mother and her boyfriend. Welcome to Urban Crime Stories. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe for upcoming crime stories.
Okay, hold on.
His eyes caught sight of something unusual by the roadside, an old television console abandoned in the underbrush. Curious, and perhaps thinking it could be salvaged, he pulled over to take a closer look. As he inspected the console, he noticed a black suitcase lodged inside, sloppily sealed with cement. Intrigued by its strange appearance, he decided to open it, never expecting the horror he was about to uncover. Using whatever tools he had on hand, the truck driver managed to break open the suitcase. Inside, he found a gym bag that reeked of decay. As he unzipped the bag, he made a grim discovery: the decomposing remains of a young African-American girl. The body was wrapped in a brown blanket, carefully folded and placed inside the gym bag. The layers of concealment inside the TV console suggested a deliberate effort to hide her remains, though the poorly executed sealing of the suitcase ultimately failed to keep her concealed. Shaken by the horrific sight, the truck driver quickly returned to his vehicle and called the police to report what he had found. Authorities arrived promptly and cordoned off the scene to preserve any evidence. The discovery of a child's body in such a remote area sent shockwaves through the responding officers, many of whom had never encountered such a chilling crime. The remote location and the methodical yet sloppy disposal of the body raised immediate suspicions of foul play. Investigators began scouring the area for additional clues, collecting the suitcase, gym bag, and TV console for further forensic examination. The girl's identity was an immediate mystery. She had no identification, no personal belongings, and nothing that might indicate who she was or where she came from. Her advanced state of decomposition made it difficult to determine her age or the cause of death at first glance. Law enforcement turned their focus to forensic evidence, examining the blanket and bags for hairs, fibers, fingerprints, or DNA that could point to her killer. They also worked to trace the origin of the television console, hoping it might provide clues to the perpetrator or where the crime had occurred. At the time of the discovery, investigators determined that the young girl had been deceased for 1 to 2 months. She was estimated to be around 3 years old, standing 2 feet 9 and weighing approximately 30 pounds. While her death was ruled a homicide, The exact cause of death remained undetermined. Investigators were able to rule out shooting and stabbing, but the precise manner of her death eluded them. Due to the timing of her discovery, so close to the Christmas holiday, the child was given the heartbreaking nickname Christmas Doe, a name that would symbolize the mystery and sorrow surrounding her case. The investigation into Christmas Doe's death was launched immediately. The Ware County Sheriff's Office requested assistance from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Field Office in Douglas, Georgia. Early clues pointed to a possible connection to Albany, Georgia, after investigators found an Albany Herald newspaper near the scene. Acting on this lead, authorities began canvassing the Albany area, interviewing locals door to door in hopes of uncovering information about the young girl's identity or any suspicious activity. Despite their efforts, no leads emerged. Investigators also scoured national and state databases for reports of missing children whose descriptions matched that of Christmas Doe. The search was extensive, reaching across the country, but yielded no matches. Authorities worked tirelessly to identify the girl, employing every tool available to them at the time. This included forensic testing, extensive media coverage, and collaboration with local social service organizations. Investigators compared the remains to missing children from multiple states, including Michigan, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. Yet, despite these efforts, every lead turned into a dead end. As years turned into decades, Christmas Doe remained unidentified, and her case grew colder. As time went on, law enforcement agencies intensified their efforts, leveraging advancements in forensic technology and renewing appeals to the public. Authorities issued repeated pleas for information, hoping to reach someone who might hold a key piece of the puzzle. Media campaigns aimed to draw attention back to the case, reminding people of the unresolved tragedy of the little girl whose life was cut short and whose story was left untold. The lack of identification not only hindered the investigation, but also left a deep emotional toll on the investigators and the community. The inability to connect Christmas Doe to a name or a family added another layer of heartbreak to an already tragic story. The unanswered questions lingered in the community. Who was she? Where was her family? How did she come to such a horrific end? In 2009, the investigation into the tragic case of Christmas Doe received renewed focus when authorities reached out to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for assistance. Known for its expertise in handling cases involving unidentified children, the National Center joined forces with investigators to explore every possible avenue to uncover the young girl's identity. Their work included conducting extensive analytical searches and utilizing DNA testing to find potential matches to missing children. Over the years, their commitment remained unwavering as they provided resources and expertise to assist in solving the decades-old mystery. By 2012, the National Center for Missing Children intensified its involvement, deploying Team Adam to Georgia. This specialized group of experts is dedicated to aiding cases involving missing and unidentified children, and their arrival marked a turning point in the investigation. They conducted an in-depth review of the case, collaborating with investigators to develop new strategies for identifying the child. One significant initiative included creating a new facial reconstruction. Using a CT scan of the child's skull, forensic artists digitally recreated her likeness, ensuring a faithful representation of her features. To add further context, they also recreated images of the pajamas she had been wearing when she was found. These images became pivotal in raising awareness, appearing on National Center for Missing Children posters and the organization's Facebook page, which shares details of unidentified children to reach a broader audience. In 2019, technological advancements offered new hope in the case. Investigators turned to genome sequencing, a cutting-edge method that has revolutionized forensic investigations in recent years. DNA extracted from the girl's remains was analyzed to build a genetic profile, which could be used to trace her family lineage. Collaborating with the Ware County Sheriff's Office, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Crime Lab, and private laboratories, authorities focused on constructing a family tree. The genealogical research pointed to a family from the Albany, Georgia area, bringing investigators closer to understanding her origins. However, despite the promising leads, The exact identity of Christmas Doe remained elusive, leaving investigators to continue their relentless search for answers. For years, investigators persisted, leveraging every resource and technological tool available. Public appeals were frequently made, particularly around the anniversaries of the child's discovery, in the hope of jogging someone's memory or reaching a new audience. Each plea brought a renewed sense of urgency, but the case continued to languish without a definitive breakthrough. The mystery of Christmas Doe haunted investigators and the community alike, fueling their determination to bring justice and closure to the story of the little girl who had remained nameless for so long. Then, in 2022, the case took a significant turn. On the anniversary of the child's death, a news story revisiting her case aired, reigniting public interest in the decades-old tragedy. Shortly afterward, a crucial tip surfaced from a member of the public who recognized the facial reconstruction of the unidentified girl created by the National Center for Missing Children. This information, combined with genealogical research conducted in prior years, helped investigators narrow their focus to a specific branch of the family tree. In January 2023, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation acted on the tip received in 2022. The tipster believed the young girl was Kenyatta Odom, a child whose disappearance had long remained unaccounted for in her community. Building on this lead, authorities worked to locate Kenyatta's relatives and gather crucial evidence. Through their cooperation, DNA testing confirmed that Ware County's Christmas Doe was indeed 5-year-old Kenyatta Odom, bringing resolution to a case that had puzzled investigators for decades. The identification of Kenyatta marked a turning point in the case and shifted the investigation's focus toward uncovering the circumstances of her tragic death. Authorities soon zeroed in on Kenyatta's mother, Evelyn Odom, and Evelyn's boyfriend at the time, Ulysses Sanders, as primary suspects. On November 1, 2023, a Dougherty County grand jury formally indicted the couple. The indictment charged them with multiple crimes, including felony murder, first-degree cruelty to children, aggravated battery, concealing Kenyatta's death, and conspiring to conceal her remains. A week later, on November 9, 2023, both were arrested, bringing the long unsolved case to a critical juncture. The details outlined in the indictment painted a harrowing picture of Kenyatta's final days. Prosecutors alleged that Evelyn and Ulysses subjected the young girl to severe abuse, including submerging her in scalding hot water, which inflicted significant injuries to her legs and feet. These injuries ultimately led to her death. In an attempt to cover up the crime, the pair reportedly encased her small body in concrete and concealed it within the large television console before discarding it in the remote woods of Ware County. A critical piece of evidence came from the tipster, who revealed a chilling childhood memory that contributed to the arrests. The tipster recalled being told as a child that the reason Kenyatta was no longer around was because she had gone to live with her father. However, the tipster admitted that they never really believed that story, prompting them to reach out to authorities after recognizing the facial reconstruction. Investigators later confirmed that Ulysses was not Kenyatta's father and began efforts to identify her biological father, hoping to shed more light on her life and familial circumstances. The indictment against Evelyn and Ulysses carries grave implications. If found guilty of Kenyatta's murder, the pair face a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment. The arrests and charges bring a sense of justice within reach, but they also highlight the unimaginable suffering endured by a young child who was failed by those entrusted with her care. Kenyatta's identification, while a breakthrough, is a solemn reminder of the profound tragedy that robbed her of a chance to grow up and live her life. What are your thoughts about this heartbreaking story? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to...
Okay, so that's the little story behind this. This person did some extensive research and brought that up, and so this is like a little story behind it. Thanks, Big Bray. Let me just show you some of the stuff that I've been doing. Let me show y'all. I've been checking this case out. You see me? I've been doing my little homework, y'all. Yeah, I think I just play around. Been doing my little homework on this. So it gave you let's show you. This is when Mr. See, co-counsel in appearance. This is when Mr. Gardner has entry as a co-counsel. So he's the co-counsel on this case. So you guys, we will be seeing him, and here it says here that the Supreme Court, the 11th day of August is when the trial starts. See, trial starts. These subpoenas went out for these people. They're going to be witnesses. I wonder what they're going to be witnesses of, because nobody was there. Look at this. All of these subpoenas. All these people got subpoenaed. You see that? All these people. There's a whole bunch of subpoenas. What are you going to tell them? Look at this. Look at all these subpoenas. Look at this. Still more subpoenas. Look. Subpoena. Look at this. It's a whole bunch of subpoenas. Look at this. I wonder who they're bringing up for this case. Are they going to remember 35 years ago? Or is this people that they just pull out all of a sudden? Look at it. Look at all these subpoenas. Maybe people that were always looking in the bushes and the look at this. This is they give you all the name of people. Hope Griffin, Goring Julia. They got a whole bunch of subpoenas for her. Dr. Ashley Garnish, Dr. Ashley. You got James, Special Agent James F. James, okay, they did a couple of duplicates of subpoena for them. Laura, this is mostly doctors they have here. Okay. Oh, they got return mail with these people. Return to service. They didn't find these people. GBI subpoena. I don't think some of these people working there anymore. They got return mail. Okay. So this is what I've been doing, y'all. So this is what your girl's been doing in between. Okay. So let's go back to the front of this. Okay. Oh, she was hospitalized. Odom was hospitalized. Ex parte order for defendant who to have access to counsel while hospitalized. Motion for discovery, a motion to reveal the deal. Thank you, Kelly, for the Apple Pay. Thank you so much. Okay, so Anybody have any question? Back to search. This is where. Y'all know your girl is like, I love doing this detail. That is the question. I asked that question too, Latoya. I asked, where is the dad? I got another. Okay, I got some little history for y'all. This guy did a whole history where the girl was born and everything, and she was born in New York, Long Island, New York. This is what. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I got it all for y'all. There's somebody else did a little story too, and they gave a little background. So we're going to pull that up for you. Hold on. See, I'm glad you asked. And the mother was 16 when she had her. Mother was 16. 16 when she had her. Hold on a second. Hold on. You see, I told you I did my homework. Certain things I just did not get. Hold on. Hold on. This one here did a whole little. They did a little skit thing here. Hold on. Let me bring you the little story from this guy here. All right, y'all ready? Here's this guy giving a story of what happened. All right, ready? The murder of the little Christmas doe.
Been sealed shut with concrete.
Hold on, let me put it back a little bit.
Circumstances nearly as mysterious as they are tragic. The truck driver, stopping off to relieve himself, stumbled upon an old television console. Inside, he found a black metal footlocker wrapped in duct tape and sealed in plastic. The locker had been sealed shut with concrete, but the hand of a child stuck out from the twisted mass. Investigators would find the body of an unidentified black child, estimated to have been between the ages of 3 and 4. Detectives were struck by the sheer heinous nature of the crime, but also by the contradictions of the scene. The child didn't appear to have been abused or neglected. She wasn't malnourished, nor were there any signs of physical trauma. She was dressed, her hair was styled, and she looked as if someone had taken some care in getting her done up. How then, they wondered, could someone so carelessly dump her like trash, and how had no one reported?
But you hear his story? He said she was well dressed and she seemed as if she was gone to church, and she was, but then they said that she was abused. It's story's kind of weird, but okay.
Reported her missing. Investigators hope to one day find those answers, but first, they need to find her. This is Trace Evidence, episode 232, The Murder of Little Christmas Doe.
You said the burial?
Welcome to Trace Evidence. I'm your host, Stephen Pacheco. Today we examine the disturbing and heartbreaking murder of a child who, more than 30 years later, still remains unidentified. This is episode 232, The Murder of Little Christmas Doe.
He got this whole episode going on here. Look at him. Oh my God.
It was a typical winter day in rural southeastern Georgia, where mornings promised frigid temperatures, calling upon coats and gloves for assistance, while hot afternoons would quickly lead to their abandonment. The biting crispness of the early morning air was already beginning to lose its chilled snap as the morning sun began its ascent. Chilled air swept up from the cold earth in thick white puffs of fog as it poured down from the west, swallowing up flat meadows and crowded forests in smoky whiteness.
Thank you for the super chat.
It was just 4 days before Christmas, Wednesday, December 21st, 1988, and to the casual observer, the white flush of morning mist meshed perfectly with the coming holiday season, as being that far south, the hope of a white Christmas was all but nil. Soon, though, the fog would fade from the world as morning gave way to a warm yet overcast afternoon beneath a sky so silver it nearly appeared white. The curving flow of the Chattahoochee River marks the border between Alabama to the west and Georgia to the east. It's there that U.S. Route 82 begins, cutting an eastward slice through the state, stretching 232 miles from the Alabama state line to its terminus just south of Brunswick, less than 30 miles north of the Florida state line. Towards its eastern end, US 82 enters Ware County, where it passes through Waycross, both the seat of the county and the only incorporated city inside of that rural area. On this particular morning, a lone man driving a timber truck was heading east along the highway, and while the road was busy with commuters and travelers, the out-of-the-way location had nowhere near the nightmare of congestion promised by larger cities, such as Atlanta. It was a slow morning, one of those days where your bed never stops feeling warm, but your job isn't going to wait. As the driver...
You see where it says the skeletal remains of a young child were found on December 18, 1988, in a rural wooded area in Ware County, Georgia. The child's remains were found concealed inside a duffel bag that was placed inside a suitcase and further concealed inside of an old television cabinet. It's estimated the child had been deceased for 1 to 2 months before being found. The child is a black female, 3 to 4 years old. She had black hair pulled into a ponytail, secured on the top of her head by a brown rubber band. She was found wearing a white knitted pullover shirt with red pony emblem on the left chest, white thermal pajamas bottom and with maroon trim, and a disposable diaper. The child's ears were pierced, but no earrings were found with her. Displayed above all digital reconstruction, the child's clothing and facial reconstruction created by the NCMEC forensic artists that depicted what the child may have looked like in life. Okay. All right, let's go. Continue.
Driver rolled down the highway. He stifled a yawn with the back of his hand, sipping slowly on gas station coffee and chewing a roll that was just edible enough to not crack a tooth.
No. Linda, no, she's 21 at this point. When this child is deceased, she's 21. When she had her, she was 16. When she had her, she was 16. She was born in 1983. This is 1988 right here.
For the next few hours, he would traverse the busy road, passing through Albany, Tifton, and Pearson on his eastward trek. As noon came about, temperatures shifted dramatically, rising nearly 30 degrees from the mid-40s to the low 70s, and the driver felt the shift, shaking off a hooded sweatshirt and tossing it onto the passenger seat. That was one problem taken care of, but another was eagerly knocking at his door. He needed to relieve himself, but there really wasn't anywhere in the area to stop. He'd hit somewhat of a dead zone, a sparsely populated stretch between the small communities of Millwood to the west and Waresboro to the east. As the truck rolled along, it passed a series of homes, many of which were decked out with multicolored Christmas lights overseen by scratched-up, faded red plastic Santa Clauses staked into unstable soil and leaning over so much they looked like they'd already gotten into the eggnog. Not long after passing Millwood Church, The driver could no longer hold back the call of nature by wriggling in his seat and squeezing his legs together. He
Oh my
had to
God.
stop, and not wanting to get into any kind of trouble, he made the decision to take a sharp left turn, moving north off Route 82. Soon, the man made another turn and was heading down a thin, poorly maintained dirt road not far from the intersection of Duncan Bridge and Forks Roads, two lesser traveled roads themselves. Following the dirt road to the west, the driver eventually found himself in an out-of-the-way spot.
Now, I see two different dates. I saw the 21st of December, and then I saw it December 18th. Which date is it? Which date is it?
That had apparently been used by locals as an illegal dumping site. There was all manner of trash thrown about in what looked like a dusty, dirty little turnaround in the middle of a thick green woods. After stepping down from his truck and taking care of the business that had originally drawn him to such a remote spot, approximately 1 mile north of Route 82, the driver was preparing to get back on the road when something caught his eye. Slowly walking towards it, the man was surprised to see an old television console. For those of you on the younger side, which used to be me, TVs used to be like pieces of furniture. They'd often be a part of a larger console, sometimes offering room for storage, shelves for displays, and polished flat tops like an end table or a bureau, almost like a dresser laying on its side with a TV screen in the middle of it, if you're trying to picture it. Anyway, arriving at the television console, the truck driver ran his hand along the top and walked a slow circle around it. On one side, he noticed something out of place. Someone had nailed several strips of wood to the side of the console, maybe in some half-assed attempt to repair it, he thought. For whatever reason, the driver picked at the nailed wood, trying to pry it off, but was unable to make it budge. Finally, whether in frustration or just for the hell of it, he delivered several kicks to the console. At one point, the entire shape fell over onto its back, and a piece of wood snapped off. The man...
Brenda, you are so fun. You said, what's the name of the book, sir?
and stepped around to the side and peered into the opening left by the broken wood. There, he saw what appeared to be a black metallic object, certainly not what he expected to find in the old console. Looking closer, he pried off a few other pieces of wood and slid out the metal object. Initially, it would be described as a suitcase, but later clarification would define it more as a metal footlocker. Even more curious, the driver began fumbling around with this footlocker and managed to pop it open. To his surprise, the inside of it had been completely filled with concrete for
So he was trying to figure out if it was what do you call it? A treasure box. he popped it open, looking for treasures.
Reasons he couldn't begin to imagine. However, it didn't take him long to realize the gravity of the situation. As he ran his fingers along the hardened blob, he noticed something that made his heart leap into his throat. He stared in horrified shock at what appeared to be the lifeless hand of a small child reaching out from the concrete mass. Running the short distance back to his truck, the driver threw it in gear and drove off with such quickness that he dragged a giant dusty cloud behind him all the way back to the pavement. Flying down the road, he slammed on the brakes when he laid eyes on a payphone and quickly grabbed the receiver, dialing 911. Moments later, he was explaining the situation with such rapid speech that the Ware County Sheriff's Office dispatcher had to keep interrupting him and reminding him to slow down. After explaining the situation, the driver agreed to wait at the phone so that he could lead investigators to the scene when they arrived. Then Sheriff Herbert Bond and Detective Arnie Heron answered the call and began the 15-minute drive west along US 82 from their office in nearby Waycross. The driver, upon spotting Heron's squad car, immediately broke down into tears. After speaking with the driver, Detective Heron turned his cruiser north, leaving Route 82 behind as he headed up into the thick woods of western Ware County. Moving on to the dirt road, he proceeded slowly forward until he could see an area where the pine trees widened out, presenting a small clearing covered with dirt and needles. Stepping out from the vehicle, he walked along the edge of the tree line until his eyes caught sight of a large pile of trash, the same that had been described by the truck driver. There, he saw it, the old television console lying on its back with several broken planks of wood hovering over a gaping hole in its side. Just a few feet to the left of the console lie the footlocker. It was sealed shut, not just with concrete, but a large amount of duct tape which had been wrapped around the box multiple times before the whole object had been placed inside a thick plastic sheet. Gently prying the box open, Detective Heron would later note that despite 15 years of experience in the field to that point, what he saw that day would haunt him for the rest of his life. Inside of the footlocker, there was a duffel bag, which had also been partially filled with cement. Inside of that bag, wrapped in a small brown blanket, was the body of a young black toddler. Her black hair was pulled back into a ponytail secured on top of her head with a brown rubber band, and she also had multicolored ribbons in her hair. She was found dressed in a white knit pullover shirt with a red pony emblem on the upper left section of the chest. She also wore white thermal pajama bottoms with maroon trim elastic ankles and a disposable diaper. While there was no way to be sure of the age at the time, Detective Heron believed the child to have been no more than 3 or 4 years old. What caught him most sharply, besides the tragic and cruel nature of how she was found, was the juxtaposition of the situation. The child appeared to have been cared well for in her life. She showed no signs that she had been physically abused or mistreated. She didn't appear to have been malnourished or neglected, and Heron noted that someone had obviously taken the time to get her done up, as he noted that she looked like she could have been on her way to a nice party or even church. Heron would later tell the Florida Times-Union that he'd never forget her, saying, quote, "I can see her now, and I wonder what happened to her." End quote. It was difficult to try and rationalize. The indignity of the way she had been disposed of stood in diametric opposition to the way in which she appeared to have lived, at least for some years. It was obvious that someone had cared for the child, but how she'd come to be there, in a haphazard little garbage dump in the middle of the woods, was another question entirely. Ware County was far from the big city, and while they had their share of crime, homicide wasn't usually on the menu. And when it was, it normally wasn't a mystery. Crimes of passion, lovers' quarrels, going too far, drunken fights that turned deadly weren't exactly commonplace, but a murdered child wasn't in the same ballpark. Hell, it wasn't even in the same hemisphere. For Heron and Sheriff Bond, their primary goal was to find out what had happened to the child and who had been responsible for dumping her there. One thing appeared clear. Given how much effort had gone into concealing the body, whoever did this did not want the child found. That, initially, gave investigators the hope that they might be able to zero in on a perp quickly, as people were unlikely to miss a friend or a relative having a child that then mysteriously disappeared. In addition, considering the remoteness of the location and the rural nature of the county in general, it seemed most likely that whoever had done this would had to have been in possession of intimate knowledge of that area, meaning it was likely a local or someone who had been in the area previously. At the same time, they didn't have a lot to work with. Looking over the scene, with it being an illegal dump site, one of the biggest challenges was determining what might be evidence related to the case and what was just trash. While the scene was beginning to be photographed and processed, Sheriff Bond requested assistance from the state lab with the child's remains. They would conduct a full and thorough autopsy in an attempt to determine a cause of death, but also to gain any additional details about the child that might help in identifying her. Unfortunately, they wouldn't find a lot of helpful answers. The medical examiner noted that they could find nothing to indicate a cause of death. The level of decomposition made the examination difficult, but the coroner reported no outward signs of physical trauma, no broken bones, knife, or gunshot wounds. They estimated that the child had likely been dead for at least a month and possibly for as long as 2 months. They placed her age at approximately 3 years old and given the time of death, theorized that she had been born sometime in 1985 or late 84. There was, of course, one major problem. They could find no records within the entire state of Georgia of any missing children who fit this child's description. This led them to wonder whether she had ever been reported as missing or if perhaps a parent or guardian could be responsible for this atrocious crime. At the time, Detective Heron had developed a good reputation for closing cases quickly. He'd spent years fostering a complex system of informants in the area, and for the most part, he was able to find the answers to his questions with a few well-placed calls. This case, though, would be different, as not a single person the detective reached out to had the first clue who might have been responsible. The unidentified child would ultimately be given the name Little Christmas Doe, given her discovery just days before the high holiday. For Detective Heron, finding her identity became his primary goal, with an investigation into her death to follow. But without a name, it was going to be a lot harder. Since Christmas Doe had been found within the unincorporated community of Millwood, this was the first place they looked. Millwood is a very small but tight-knit community with families stretching back for several generations. Population records didn't begin being kept there until 2020, but as of that year, the full list of residents tops out at 72. It was thought that if the child was from that area, someone in Millwood would likely have known about it. Detective Heron, joined by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and additional sheriff's deputies, visited the community and went door to door, speaking with every resident that was there. Much to their surprise, no one had any idea who the child might be, nor where she might have come from. Investigators hit somewhat of a wall. While it seemed like whoever dumped the body had to have been familiar with the area, they weren't sure how to reconcile that with the fact that no one in Millwood had any ideas. If she was from a surrounding city or even another state, they wondered how the suspect had come to find that backwoods illegal dumping site. Surely it could have been a random discovery, but all the work of cementing the child inside of that TV console seemed like a lot of premeditation for the suspect to go through so much work if they were then just randomly going to drive down a dirt road hoping to find an out-of-the-way spot. Speaking of that cement, some have wondered, myself included, why go through all the trouble of working to cement that child into that big metal case and then stick it inside of a TV console instead of doing something easier like dropping it into a lake or river? That's another question in this case that seems obvious but has no solid answer. When investigators' door-to-door approach in Millwood failed to yield answers, the investigation spread out. They contacted neighboring law enforcement agencies, sent information via teletype across the state, then the eastern seaboard, then the entire country. Despite a flood of newspaper articles and television news stories, the case began growing cold. In hopes of keeping the story alive, a series of reconstructions and forensic drawings were done. A bust of what Christmas Doe might have looked like in life was created, photographed, and shared in local and national publications. A sketch of the child, showing her with barrettes in her hair, was circulated, but again, led to no new tips or leads. Sheriff Bond would later note that an extensive search was done throughout the entire United States for a missing child who fit Christmas Doe's description, but none was ever found. Despite all of the effort put in by law enforcement and the media, the case fell from the headlines and Christmas Doe's case file was worked on intermittently. Unfortunately, both the 80s and 90s would come to their end without any additional information. However, in 2009, 31 years after the discovery of her body, the GBI received an anonymous tip from someone who claimed to possess knowledge of who the victim might be. According to GBI Special Agent Russell Mansfield, the tipster informed investigators that the child may have originally been from the area of Albany, Georgia. In addition, the tip stated that the child may have been named Bridget, and her family at one time might have lived in Tifton. This caught investigators' attention for two very big reasons. Firstly, Albany is located approximately 94 miles west of Millwood, directly along Route 82, and Tifton is located almost in the middle of these two locations, being 53 miles west from Millwood. Someone could easily leave Albany, travel 2 hours to Millwood, dump the body, and be back in Albany 2 hours after that without having to spend more than 10 minutes on roads other than Route 82. Another reason this piqued the curiosity of investigators was because of a newspaper recovered at the crime scene. GBI Special Agent Jason Seacrest explained, quote, "Close to the TV cabinet where the remains were found was an Albany Herald, and based on the conditions of the scene and everything, we believe it was associated with the TV cabinet. We do think that there's an Albany connection." End quote. While investigators have never revealed the full information relayed by the anonymous tip, they did work with local newspapers and television stations at the time to try and convince the tipster to contact them again. GBI Special Agent Russell Manfield discussed the need to get more information from the tipster, telling the Tifton Gazette, quote, "We would definitely like for them to contact our office. We don't think the person who sent the email had anything to do with it, but that they are afraid to be associated with the case for some reason. The person can remain confidential, but we have to have some way to prove or at least substantiate that the information is accurate. And the only way to do that is to talk to that person." End quote. For investigators, it soon became less about solving the crime and more about being able to return this little girl's name to her. Without her name, trying to find the person or persons responsible could be a nearly impossible task. Even if a suspect couldn't be identified, to at least be able to lay her to rest under a stone with her own name would make a world of difference to investigators. Agent Mansfield explained, quote, "Our main focus right now is just to try and identify this little girl and give her remains a proper burial. This wasn't an infant born and abandoned, but a little girl who lived 3 years. Somebody cared for her, and there are people who knew her." End quote. Unfortunately, all of the hype drummed up by the anonymous tip quickly faded out as the case once again began growing cold. 12 years later, sometime in 2021, investigators made the decision to try and utilize DNA and genetic genealogy to try and crack the identity of the unknown little girl. Special Agent Seacrest explained to the media that they had exhausted other efforts and had looked at missing children from all around the country, but had learned little. It can be a long, drawn-out, and frustrating process, though Seacrest explained, quote, "The DNA technology does not necessarily take us directly to a parent. A lot of times it can be a second, third, fourth cousin, or something far more removed than that. Then we have to go through and start trying to interview and try to make a determination of which direction to go in." End quote. Interestingly, Seacrest would note that they had been working with a private lab as well as with the GBI Department of Forensic Sciences. 2 years have passed since that work began, and nothing appears to have come from it. No explanation has been given for what the major roadblocks have been, but Seacrest was upfront when he stated that they really needed more help from the public. He later explained, quote, "We have gotten some weak links to follow through on, but we could really use some help in giving us some direction through a tip or anything else to help identify who this little girl is." End quote. Sadly, it appears that they've once again hit a dead end, as there have been no new leads, information, or tips released since 2021. For the most part, it appears that while investigators remain dedicated to uncovering Little Christmas Doe's identity, they've suffered multiple setbacks. In 2022, Special Agent Seacrest announced that an anonymous donor had put up a $5,000 reward for information leading to the little girl's identity. That reward remains in place today. Investigators remain convinced that there is someone out there that knows who this little girl is, but they may not be aware of what became of her. He explained, quote, There is somebody out there who remembers a family member, a family friend, a neighbor, whose little girl went away with an explanation that didn't seem right. Deep down in their gut, they knew something wasn't right. I believe that finding this little girl's identity and her family will help heal in some way. End quote. When found, Little Christmas Doe has been described as being a female black child with black curly hair worn in a ponytail tied with a brown rubber band. She also wore bright-colored bows in her hair. She is estimated to be between the ages of 3 and 4, with her time of death set for 30 to 60 days prior to her discovery, which would pretty much be any time between October 1st and December 1st. It's thought she was born in 1985 or possibly 84. It is estimated that she would have stood 2 feet 8 inches tall to 3 feet 1 inch tall and weighed between 23 and 27 pounds. She was dressed in white thermal pajama pants with maroon trim, a disposable diaper, and a white knit pullover shirt that had a red pony emblem in the upper left chest area. Evidence was found to show the child's right ear had been pierced, though no earrings were found. Decomposition made it impossible to confirm whether or not her left ear had also been pierced. It was also reported that the child had small gaps between some of her baby teeth, though dental records are unavailable. DNA is available, though NamUs lists 7 missing persons who have since been excluded via comparison. Evidence at the scene, in conjunction with an anonymous tip, may link the child to either Georgia City, Albany, or Tifton. The tip claimed that she may have been named Bridget and lived with her family in Tifton, but this has never been confirmed. No cause of death has been determined, and horrifyingly, police cannot rule out the possibility that this child may have been alive when she was encased in concrete. Her body was wrapped in a brown baby blanket, then placed inside of a duffel bag which was filled with concrete. The duffel bag was then placed inside of a black metal footlocker, which was also filled with concrete. Then, the footlocker was stored inside of an old television console, and several pieces of wood were used to nail the hole shut. Surely someone out there remembers.
Man, he keep repeating himself. Why he keep repeating the same stuff? Let's see if he's still talking stuff. He's repeating.
At the time of her disappearance, has since been arrested. Just a few weeks ago, we saw New Hope Jane Doe positively identified after 33 years, and she is now known as Lisa Coburn Kessler, a 20-year-old last known to have been living in Jackson County, Georgia. The investigation into her murder is ongoing, and police have announced a suspect. Obviously, DNA can work wonders, but it can't solve every case, and Little Christmas Doe at this point seems to be an example of that. They announced that they were working on genetic genealogy with her 2 years ago, and since then, they've said they obtained only weak links. Something more is necessary. Someone with information needs to tell investigators what they need to know. But let's take a look at the case, the evidence, and some of the more popular theories that have developed over these last 35 years and see what makes sense. I think the most logical place to begin is at the scene of the crime. Now, since the coroner was unable to determine a cause of death for Christmas Doe, it's impossible to say with any certainty what might have happened. There were no direct signs of physical trauma to the body, no broken bones, no knife or gunshot wounds. That leaves a number of possibilities, everything really from homicide to accidental death. Hell, investigators back in '88 were frustrated by the fact that they couldn't say for sure that the victim had even been murdered. While that seems like the most likely outcome, the lack of evidence only added more confusion to a case that really doesn't need any help expanding its complexity. What is known is that at some point in time, someone took this child and wrapped her in a blanket. They then placed her inside of a duffel bag and flooded it with cement until it dried and solidified as a hardened chunk. The duffel bag was then put inside of a metal footlocker, which was itself flooded with concrete, sealing it shut. The suspect then wrapped the locker in duct tape and stuck it inside of a thick plastic sheet, sealing it shut. Then, this plastic-wrapped, concrete-filled tomb was pushed inside of an old television console. Several planks of wood were then placed over the hole in the console, nailing it shut. Then, this person or persons had to load this console up into their truck or trailer or whatever, drive it down US Route 82, turn onto a dirt road, drive up to an illegal dump site, and unload it. Regardless of what in the hell was going on here, somebody obviously went through a lot of trouble to try and hide this child's body. Was that because of shame, out of fear, or some combination of those two and probably a bunch of other terrible stuff? It's hard to say, but I think it's rational to say someone who would do all of this really didn't want that child to be found. It's strange. I can't help but wonder, if you were going to put the child in a duffel bag full of concrete and then in a footlocker full of concrete, wouldn't it make more sense to then drop that heavy metal concrete-filled box into a lake or river instead of putting it inside of a TV console in a locally used little-known dumping ground? It's extremely bizarre and almost seems like this person consciously made a choice to take the road less traveled for some reason. Now, given all of the steps that had to be taken here, what makes the most sense to you? That the killer planned all of this out and then decided on a whim to just drive down US 82, turn off on a random dirt road, and hope for a good dump spot? Or that this person knew exactly where this spot was and specifically picked it out? If you go with the latter, which is what detectives tend to believe, then it's hard to imagine that it wasn't someone who either lived in that area or who had previously lived there. This isn't a busy stretch of highway wedged between two larger cities. This is the middle of nowhere, Georgia. Considering this, most people who've looked into this case tend to believe that the killer lived in the area at one point or very close by. Of course, that comes along with its own set of problems. No one from the area seemed to know anything about the little girl. No one could remember any family that could have been hers. No one had any stories to tell about a mother or father who had a child and then one day didn't. There was no one reported missing from the area who matched the child's description, and ultimately it would be determined that there were no missing persons across the state of Georgia that fit. That left two possibilities: that the victim was from outside of the state or that she was never reported missing. Under the sinister chance that one or both of her parents or guardians might have been responsible for her death and dumping, one wouldn't expect to locate a missing persons report. Now, detectives expanded their search across the country. They reached out to additional agencies. They went through missing persons lists and tried to find anyone who fit, but they never were able to. Again, this leads us back to the possibility that the victim wasn't reported missing, but it also raises another possibility. Over the years, many have speculated as to the chance that maybe Christmas Doe wasn't the only victim here. It's not outside of the realm of possibility that Christmas Doe's mother, father, guardian, etc. was also murdered. Maybe this person has never been found, or maybe this person has never been identified. Generally, I'm not one to lean towards a theory that seems to add in extra complications, but I think in this instance, it's worth considering. It's certainly possible that two things can be true at once. People could have been aware of this child, but also unaware that she was ever missing. Imagine a single parent living in the area, tells friends they're moving away to be with family or friends across the country. This person and their child leave the area, and everyone assumes that they've moved like they previously said. But maybe they never made it, and maybe their family never knew they were coming at all. So nobody files missing persons reports, and nobody keeps up with finding out where this person went or could have gone. And in all reality, maybe they never left the area at all. Obviously, you can theorize about potential suspects and motives all day. Unfortunately, without additional information or evidence, it's impossible to narrow much down. It seems most likely you're looking for a local or a former local. If they're not from the Millwood area, they probably have some familiarity with Ware County in general. Beyond that, It's pretty much a wild goose chase where things begin fitting into place depending upon the strength or weakness of your own analysis, and I don't want to just wander far down that road for no reason. So instead, I want to take a few minutes to discuss the sharp juxtaposition of the crime scene. We all know of the terrible things this monster did to this little girl. The way she was wrapped, the concrete, the duffel bag, the footlocker, duct tape, plastic, and TV console. It's almost difficult to try and imagine it, like your mind struggles to create such a hideous and terrible image. It's hard to imagine what kind of hideous creature could do something so atrocious. Yet, Christmas Doe herself is the opposite. She's dressed warmly, her hair is done, and it's clear someone took the time and care to look after her, at least for a time. She's not malnourished, she has no signs of physical abuse, and this isn't an infant who died or was killed before she had lived for a period of time. She was at least 3 years old. For those 3 years, someone raised her, cared for her, looked after her. Someone loved this little girl. So how the hell did she end up where she was, and why? Those may be some of the most frustrating aspects of all of this. Even if you find the person responsible, even if they confessed, there's never going to be an answer provided that satisfies the mind because there's no answer in this situation that could ever be acceptable. One thing is for certain above all else, someone out there knows what happened to this little girl. And that brings us around to another detail of this case that's been incredibly frustrating. In 2009, 21 years after Christmas Doe was found, someone paid a visit to the GBI's website. This person submitted an anonymous tip in which they alleged to have information about Christmas Doe and where she may have been from. They stated that the victim may have been named Bridget and her family might have lived in Tifton, approximately 50 miles west of Millwood. Now, while there's no specificity given, it sounds like the tipster also mentioned something to do with the town of Albany, 94 miles west of Millwood. I say this because investigators back in '88 found a copy of the Albany Herald newspaper at the dump site. This was mentioned off and on over the years, but following the 2009 tip, it started getting talked about like they were now more convinced than ever of a link to Albany. While it remains possible the tip was a prank or a fraud, investigators don't think so. In the aftermath of the anonymous information, they made a big push in the local media to try and reach this tipster. They needed more information, some way to verify what they'd been told, so that they could begin trying to track her family down. They don't have the resources to follow up on a tip that they can't at least confirm one way or another. So they asked the tipster to reach out again, to give them additional information, but that never happened. It's been 14 years since that tip came in, and there's never been any follow-up. It's a tragic and heartbreaking case that deserves a solution. Christmas Doe, this little girl, needs to have her name returned to her, and whoever is responsible for her death and the atrocious manner in which she was disposed of needs to be brought to justice. Obviously, someone out there knows the truth. Over the passage of years and then decades, without ever seeing or hearing about the child, they began to have their doubts about the veracity of this story. According to the GBI, while DNA and genetic genealogy were utilized to help find Kenyatta's true identity, they were not ultimately the methods which led to her real name being discovered. Instead, they ran into dead ends when they found proof that extended family members of the victim had lived in the Albany area, but they didn't discover the identity of a direct parent. Instead, the most helpful information would be delivered to investigators via a telephone tip. In December of 2022, just last year, the GBI was involved in a newspaper story discussing the case and where it stood at the time. The story garnered a lot of coverage and was ultimately read by an unnamed female. Upon hearing the story and comparing it to the details of a child's disappearance decades earlier, she reached out to the GBI. Without her call, this case may not have ever been solved, and if it was, it certainly would not have been solved now. I'll now play for you a piece of the press conference during which time GBI Special Agent Jason Seacrest explains when they started looking at DNA, where the process took them, and how the tipster managed to break the case open for them.
It wasn't until 2009
We got this
what
part.
they've been told. And I think it's exceedingly important to highlight that even after 30 years, law enforcement was still highly dependent upon information given to them by a tipster. Who knows where this case might be if that woman hadn't picked up the phone and shared what she believed. While the GBI was able to positively identify the child in June of this year, they had more work to do to begin making arrests. That leads us to this month when, on Thursday, November 9th, Kenyatta's biological mother, 56-year-old Evelyn Odom, was located and arrested in Cook County, some 70 miles west of Ware County and approximately halfway between Millwood and Albany. The Lenox Police Department, in conjunction with the Cook County Sheriff's Department, received arrest warrants and were able to take Odom in without incident. In addition to Kenyatta's mother, police have also arrested 61-year-old Ulister Sanders Sr. out of Dougherty County, which is home to the city of Albany. While unassociated with Evelyn today, back in 1988, he was her live-in boyfriend, and it's believed by investigators that he was directly involved with both the murder and disposal of Kenyatta's remains. As it turns out, that newspaper from Albany, which could easily have been overlooked by investigators, was a major clue in this case. District Attorney Greg Edwards is very confident in the evidence they possess, telling CBS News, quote, "We believe that there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that will lead to justice being found for Kenyatta," end quote. I will now play some audio for you from the GBI press conference of Agent Seacrest discussing these arrests.
Oh my God.
The investigation didn't stop there. Only were we able to identify her remains of who baby.
How that will stand up in court remains to be seen, but the murder charges themselves should be airtight. The indictment goes on to state that Kenyatta lived at the home occupied by Odom and Sanders, and it's believed that is where she was killed. Without going too deep into disturbing details, the indictment also states that Odom and Sanders submerged the 5-year-old child in hot water, which seriously scalded and disfigured her legs and feet, leading to her death. Simultaneous to this statement, Agent Seacrest noted that the original medical examiner labeled the crime as homicide by unknown causes, and that is unlikely to change, though the investigation is not yet finished. It was theorized that Kenyatta may have died as many as 5 months prior to her discovery in that little garbage dump in rural Ware County. This is where the case remains for now. The monsters responsible for this horrifying and hideous crime are in custody, and while nearly 4 decades have passed, they can no longer escape the hands of justice. And I truly hope that, if found guilty, they throw the fucking book at them. They should never have an opportunity to set foot outside as free persons and should be denied all aspects of life that they stole from little Kenyatta. I try to look on the bright side and acknowledge that she has her name back, that the guilty are in.
Okay, that's enough of him because he was getting a little bit too raunchy. But so that's the case I will be working on, guys. Any questions? Any questions? Any question? What do you think? Mr. Gardner is one of the attorneys that's on the case now. And trial starts on August the 11th. August the 11th is the trial date. I said what I think. What did you say? You said a whole bunch of stuff. No, it's not the same case as the one that you're talking about. I know which one you're talking about. Plan lady, supposedly the parent, the mom is supposedly the alleged predator that did it. That's alleged. I'm saying allegedly, so we don't know for a fact. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go. I just want to tell you that's my new case I'm going to do. Oh, guess what I want to tell y'all? I want to show y'all something. Has nothing to do with this, but this is something else that's brewing in Fulton County. And I wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on a second. I got to show y'all something. Y'all, Jackie made it home. She is home resting now, and she's in pain. So, guys, continue praying for Jackie, okay? She just sent me a text. She made it home. Oh, wow. Thank you for letting me know, Kelly. Okay, hold on, y'all. Hold on. I gotta send y'all some. I gotta send this too. This is a developing story right now, y'all. I want to show y'all. Developing story. And I got something to tell y'all about this story. This is developing, and don't make sure you tell everybody I told y'all about this. This is okay. Just make sure I tell y'all. Remember, I brought this developing story up. You heard it here first. But this is a developing story in Fulton County. All right, I'm going to show you this. Hold on. This is something I'm about to show you guys. This happened on Monday, y'all. Monday this happened. And I'm going to show you guys what in the world happened. Listen.
At noon, police are still searching for a murder suspect who shot at a sports car in southwest Atlanta. Atlanta News First Blake on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. So, Blake, quite a cleanup effort now underway at that crime scene. Tell us about it.
Rick, it is a complete mess here as a 28-year-old man was murdered during a drive-by shooting Monday morning. Walk with me as I want to show you some of the damage actually to this red sedan, which was another car involved in this incident. As we can see all the glass, we saw the family of the man who lost his life visibly shaken and overcome with emotion. Plenty of police searching the streets of southwest Atlanta after a chaotic crash. This entire intersection taped off between Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and Lyndhurst Drive for over 6 hours. Officers called out just after 12:30 a.m. Monday morning, finding this crash Corvette along with this red sedan, both blasted with bullets. Inside that sports car, they discovered an unresponsive man.
Upon their arrival, there was a male inside the vehicle that was unresponsive. They attempted life-saving efforts, but were unable to successfully revive him, and he was pronounced deceased at the scene.
After it was riddled with bullets, the Corvette actually crashed into a MARTA bus station as all of this debris has been just left here sitting on the street.
To see this all behind me, just totally gone out of nowhere, it's like I can't explain.
Investigators believe the shooter fired shots from a car that was trailing the victim. Eventually, the crash Corvette was towed away once homicide detectives wrapped up their investigation. Looking at all the aftermath from this deadly dispute, Sierra Foster is shocked that this happened.
It's very troubling. It's things like that go on in the world, and it's so frustrating, and you just don't know. You have to be safe out here.
Here's another live look at the cleanup effort taking place in southwest Atlanta. Detectives were trying to configure a recording from the dash cam of the crash Corvette in order to get a video of the suspected shooter. At this time, we're still waiting on further information from detectives. Reporting live in Southwest Atlanta, Blake Devine, Atlanta News First.
All right, let me tell y'all something. Guess who's being questioned for this in this case? Guess who is being questioned? No, not Woody. Not Woody. Not Woody at all. Not me. Darren, why you say so? Why would I be questioned? I don't know nothing about what's going on. Guess who's being questioned? Don't be putting my name in that mess. No, Latoya, but close. Not close, but you know. I'm talking about you. What about me? Oh, you spent time with your favorite friend. That was me. Oh, okay, gotcha. I thought you were talking about they questioned me. No, they Steve, no, not SB. No, not SB. Not yet either. Not yet. Y'all give up. No, not yet. I give up because let me tell you, they saying that there was a hit put on somebody and they end up getting the wrong person. A hit put on somebody and they got the wrong person. They thought that was the right person's car and ended up being somebody else. Not baby, not little baby, but it's a rapper. It's a rapper. You heard about that story? You did, Miss Rich? Oh, I know you heard about it. I know you heard about it, Miss Richard. Not Thug. Not Thug. Yeah, I give up, right? Y'all give up. I'm going to tell you. Lucci. Exactly. You say you knew it was a little? You silly. Renette's silly. Renette is so silly. She said, I knew it was little. Yeah, so y'all keep your eyes open. The person's name is Quintavious Monday is his name. Quintavious Monday. Quintavious Mondays. Quentatavius. I'll put his name inside the chat and inside this thing, see if we could find out more about it. We're going to see if we can find out more about it. Hold on a second. Let me put the name in the search. QUENTAVUN. All right, let's see. What? He was on the most wanted? No, that's not him. I don't see anything on him right now. Yep. So, you know, I always have the exclusive Latoya. Latoya, you know, I be in my ears be in the streets. You know what I'm saying? I be like, yeah, that's why you go to the courthouse. You hear all kinds of stuff if you come to the courthouse. Come to the courthouse, you hear everything. 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 You go to the courthouse, you be like, you be acting like you doing some work and you just like, you hear everything. Mm-hmm. You sure do, Toya. You hear everything down at the courthouse. That's why I have to go take a visit down there just to sit around, just be nosy. Just be nosy. You hear so much. So, we'll see how long it's going to take for indictments to come on about. Because, you know, these indictments take a long time. The arrests come right away. I'm still trying to get those information in regard to Beyonce's thing because I'm still working on that. They said some sort of gang. Remember I was telling you some gang that has to do with some, what's the name of it? Poor gang? Something gang. They go and snatch people's stuff from the rich and they break into their homes and do all kind of wreak havocs and stuff like that. So, but I can't remember the name of them. What was the name? Because I gave it to you the other day. Can't remember the name of it. But Drug Rich. Thank you. Toya's. Go on, Toya. Go on with your bad self. There she go. There she go. Right there. Toya, thank you. Toya's she's a good student. She remembers everything that's said. Thank you, Toya. Thank you. I just can't remember the names. I say it one time and then all of a sudden I forget stuff. So that's why y'all gotta catch me. Because later on I'll be like, I don't remember. Yes, I will be very careful while I'm being nosy. Yep, but this is what it is. What it is, y'all. What's it? I'm going to put in my Rule 22 for this case, the one I'm getting ready to do, the Auburn one. It's 2 hours. Kobe? What's up? What you got in your mouth? All right, y'all. I gotta I'm gonna go to the second channel. I promise I'm gonna do a second channel because I gotta be messy. I'm gonna go to the second channel. Go to the second channel to be messy. Okay? I'll see you guys in the second channel. All right. I got some phone to pick. Bye, y'all. See you later. Is you from Georgia? Can you find another state? What? Law Malcolm, what the heck you talking about? Is you from Georgia? Can you find another state? Go sit down somewhere, Malcolm. Malcolm, go to bed. You tired. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed, Malcolm. Good night, y'all. We're going to the second channel right now because I got some stuff to say. Yep. Peace out.
Thank you for watching the infamous Sylvia channel, where laughter and fun make up our panel. Together we build this digital spree. We appreciate you and our growing family. With mods by our side and chat flowing free in this online space. It's just you and me, we laugh until tears roll down like the rain. In this virtual world, you ease all my pains. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mods and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. We cherish the moments, the highs and lows, from the latest gossip to stories untold. You're more than a viewer, you're part of the crew in this space of ours. It's all because of you. This digital world where emotion is shared, every post and reaction showing we care. The love is real in this virtual domain. With every sign, enjoys what we'll gain. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mods and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mods and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. This digital world where emotion is shared, every post and reaction showing we care. The love is real in this virtual domain. With every sign, enjoys what we'll gain. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mods and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night.